Josh here with the Dirtport Jesters podcast, hydrating before the King's Royal gets here. I got my guy Ryan here hanging out with me. Ryan's on here because Ryan and I go to the King's Royal. Ryan's been there quite a few times. We have a blast. We always run into each other there, and that's, if I remember correctly, the first time we ran into each other was at Eldora, at the King's Royal.
I believe it was the King's Royal, maybe 2019? Speculating.
But we're getting on here to try and just give out some advice, share some of the stuff that we've learned over the course of the years. We've all had kind of different paths on how we got there. I don't know, but I guess first things first, starting out with a first-timer. If it's your first time to Eldora for the King's Royal,
going down to the pits on Thursday or Friday is a must, for sure. I kind of make a point to do it once over the weekend. My thing is hot laps, qualifying, maybe the first or second heat race, and then I'm usually probably in my seat by the end of a couple heat races so that I don't miss the rest of the heat races, and I don't miss the B, the C feature and all that stuff. But
yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm lucky enough, like you and I talked, that we get in there Tuesday nights. We get in there Tuesday night and we don't leave till Sunday for the most part. And we have tickets for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But we don't buy tickets for Wednesday because typically there's only a few of us that can make it really Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
So we won't buy any tickets for Wednesday, so we'll get pit passes, and that's what we'll do, is like you were saying, we'll go down there and catch everything, and then once the heat races start, then we go grab a seat somewhere because everything's fairly open. Like you said, Saturday, especially, it seemed like last year to me was the busiest King's Royal that I can recall.
Yeah, Saturday was pretty packed.
There was easily no, they said it was a new record, but I don't think they offered out the number.
Do they ever?
Well, I think the capacity there is like 22,000.
Is that excluding hillsides, I assume?
Well, I wonder if that's part of the reason why they don't announce the number, because they're over capacity. But
that's probably a good point.
Yeah, that's not a bad. That's not a bad suggestion if you're going to try to go to King's Royal Week, because now, it used to be, for the longest time, it was 2 nights.
My first year.
And then they bumped it to 3, and then they bumped it to 4, and then they're like, we can do 4.
Yeah. I think they could probably do without the Wednesday, to be honest with you, but in terms of the attendance in the crowd, they don't get a lot of draw in, but
yeah. No, I don't know that you're wrong there. I don't mind it because
it works out good for me.
I'm there Tuesday, so if you're going to show me 4 straight days of racing after that, sign me up.
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Just because it's crazy busy. Last year, I think we brought a cooler in and just went up to the bar before anything really started and loaded it up and got our concessions, and that was because we didn't want to stand in line forever. So Saturday is definitely wild.
Yeah, and I would say on Saturday in general, we probably eat dinner at the camper right before we go in, so that's not a necessary requirement to getting inside, because, yeah, you're right, it gets crowded in those lines on that. It's interesting now with the Thursday night being a big money race, that kind of feels like Thursday, Saturday are the big nights, and Friday is less crowded, less prestigious, whatever you want to say. But the spectacle, King's Royal Week, where it's at. Just to say back to what you were saying, other top 3 things, would I recommend? Going to the pits is definitely in there. I would suggest to anybody that's never been, that's interested in gear, that find some time during the day, go in at 2:00 in the afternoon and 3:00 in the afternoon or whatever, walk through concessionaires row of all the cool stuff that you can get. all the teams, all of it, and do all that stuff. Do a track walk before the place gets real crowded.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and if you're going to, really, if you're going to Kings Royal, you're going to Kings Royal for Saturday, right? So, like you pointed out, you can. Is it going to be crowded once the racing starts? Yeah. But like you're saying, you can go in early, and you can kind of take things in, and get a feel for it because the spectacle is there. Getting all the drivers out there on the stage with the throne, and then obviously whoever wins the $175,000 being crowned king. It's just something that you got to experience. And I didn't really mention when you were talking about pits because you got to get in there. But do you have a spot when you're in the pits watching? Do you have a spot that you like to go?
Yeah, I actually have two. I would say. For me, my favorite spot. It's kind of like for two different reasons. Favorite spot for laps and qualifying for me is right in the middle of 1 and 2, so that I can see them on the scoreboard, on the video board. But you get that sensation of them diving down into 1, like coming right down against the wall, and the wind going by your face and all that stuff. To me, that's the first time I ever did it. I'm like, holy crap, this is the coolest thing I've ever done in a sporting event.
Yep.
And there's that one. But then the other one that's pretty neat is if you're going to be there for the heat race itself, to be like right there at the chalk line on 4, because then you get all presumably 8 or 10 cars that are winding it up all at the same time, and it's pretty dang cool.
Well, like you said, depending on how the track is, definitely at the beginning, if you can get over there at 1 and 2, you can see them on the screen, like you pointed out. I like to go if they're running up against the wall in 3 and 4. I like to go over there and get right in the middle of 3 and 4. They're so close. If that fence wasn't there, you could reach out.
Yeah, that's what I like. Same reason, like 1 and 2, like if the bottom is tacky enough for them to have grip, then same thing. It feels like they're an arm's length away.
It's wild. It's wild. And it's loud. And I'm not a guy like in the stands, in part because I can't hear. But I'm not the guy in the stands that wears the earplugs. That's never been my thing because I don't know. Probably in part because I can't hear as well as most people, and it doesn't affect me as much. But when you go down in the pits, it's well worth the $1 if there's still $1. Well, I guess
for
we'll talk about that.
earplugs? Yeah, no, that's good
advice.
About that
later.
That's good
advice.
The
beers are not $2 anymore.
Yeah, for my shop at home, I just go buy whatever it is, a little carton at Lowe's of earplugs, whatever they cost.
Yep.
And I usually have one of those in my car or in my bag when I'm at Eldora.
Yeah, you need them. Or if you're in the pits up against the wall, you need them
for sure. What I actually usually do, and this could be like another, I don't know if it's a top, but it's a recommendation. It's something I like doing is I carry, the headphones that cover your ears instead of using earplugs. But I bring a cheapo AM/FM radio and I listen to the PA, even when I'm down there against the wall, because then I can hear what's happening. You can hear Johnny, or you can hear. Well, it used to be Blake Anderson, as the track announcer, but you can hear what's going on, and I like it.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I have always thought about that, and what I need to do is I need to put it in my bag right now because I always thinking about it, and then I never take it.
Yeah,
just a little radio, and you can, like you said, you can listen to it, and it definitely helps because when you get out there, especially, it can get dusty. It's Ohio, right? That's always the joke. Yeah, it can get dusty, and at some points, especially where you're sitting and where the cars are at, it's like, who is that? It's hard to keep track.
Yeah, I mean, that's good advice for that reason. I don't know. My reason is really easy. The first couple years I went, as I mentioned to you before we got started, my first year was 2017. I can dive into the story of my first year sometime later if you want, but I didn't have that stuff. I just had earplugs. Sometime, I think it was August of that same year or the next year, one or the other, I scored 4 free tickets to the NASCAR race at Michigan, and we got scanners for the race. I'm like, man, this just makes it so much better.
Yeah.
Because you get the thrill of being there and smelling the smells like you do at Eldora, the smell of the ethanol, the popcorn, all the good stuff. But then you can also hear the radio broadcast that tells you what in the world's going on when you may not know why did somebody pull off the track? Well, you don't know, and you're not going to hear it until the feature's over because it's too damn loud.
That's a really good point because you can get guys, like I said, depending on where you're sitting, you get a car that stalls out or something and they're up against the inside wall, you might not see them from where you're sitting, and you're like, why the hell's there a yellow flag? And
right.
You're going to have a pretty good idea if you've got some ears in. So that's I don't know that we thought about that until this conversation, but that's a very good point.
I mean, ever since that NASCAR race, and then every year after that, I'm like, I bring headphones. I also have a little buy it on Amazon or go to Walmart. It's just a little splitter, so that whoever's with me, if they so desire, can listen to the PA system as well.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do it, and I always think about it, and then I get to the track, and you know what I did? I didn't bring it. So.
Yeah, it's on my. I'm a person who likes lists, and it's on my list for Kings Royal every year is to make sure
I do make a list of things to take. I'm sure that there have been times I've left things off my list. I'm confident there are times, specifically the radio, because I've never taken it.
We typically sit, as you know, in the areas where you bring a chair, not in the grandstand. Was it last year or the year before? I left my chair at home. I had to bum one off somebody.
Yeah.
And it didn't have a cup holder. Man, it was hard. It was a tough day.
So the first timers, I guess we've talked about a few different things, but kind of going off of that, where to sit. I gotta say, I think the main grandstands is where you want to sit if it's your first time.
That's interesting. Like under the roof?
Well, see, I was there at one time, up against the center. I don't even know what that little building is there, like where the 50/50s
or whatnot.
Yeah, it's the area that's below the press, but it's enclosed. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anybody that's been there, you're aware of it. And if you go to Eldora and go to the main grandstand, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like the air gets trapped there. Like it's nice hot to be undercover in case it rains, because then guess what? You don't have to go anywhere. But it's, to me, because it's middle of July, it's almost always hot, and the air just does not move undercover up towards the top. Now, you could be like at the edge of the cover, and I think you'd be all right, or even out in the open. I mean, look, if it rains, like the bar's right there, people are probably going to get up and move anyways.
Right.
I just think the main grandstand higher up is ideal, because then you can see the majority of the track, where when you get low, you can't really see on the backstretch. But the main grandstand, to me, is kind of where to set for a first-timer, just to get that experience.
I get that. I've never actually sat there for a race, to be honest. I might have sat there for, I don't know, 8 guys, 6 guys, something like that, and hot laps, just to sit there. I don't know. For me, I would give a 2-part opinion on where I would tell a first timer to go.
That's fine.
One would be if you're a family, I would try to get one of the concrete pads somewhere in 1 and 2, because there's a little more room if you're a family. If you're just a single person, or maybe a couple, 3 guys, I might even suggest just do GA and wander around. like at the bleachers and wander around wherever you like. In other words, if it's your first time ever being there,
Yep.
experiment a
Check
little
out
bit.
some different
Yeah,
perspectives.
like one of my things that I like to do at some point during the night is, if there's room and I'm not in somebody's way, is to go climb the very top of the grandstands somewhere, just kind of see the whole thing while it's happening.
Yeah,
you can't easily do that on a Saturday night, but you can do it on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, usually.
Yes, yeah, that's very true. And although I'm not a fan of sitting in turn 3, because 9 times out of 10, the dust is going to be just destroying you there.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the cars come into 3 on the backstretch is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're hauling the mail.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you get to watch them coming down the barrel and then just ripping that car to the left. It's pretty cool to see them going into 3 there.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much where we are on Saturday, just because it's the only place we can get whatever we are, 6 people together for now.
I don't know if it's just that time of year. The wind must just blow that way, because it seems like almost every year.
I can tell you that it's been like that in May as well.
Okay, all right.
Let's race 2.
Fair enough. I find myself in 1 and 4 most of the time.
Yeah, I like what you're saying though. It's cool. It's a good view.
Oh yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
Anything else that we could think of for first timers? That was, I think,
let's
probably
see,
more than 3, but that's all right.
We've covered where to sit. Covered sitting at the not sitting, but getting there early for the whatever the gear, the souvenir row activity.
Yep. Well, and you can get in there and if you get a pit pass, you can kind of go walk around and you might be able to chit chat with some folks before they really start getting after it.
Yeah.
But you know what we didn't talk about?
What's that?
What are you going to get at the concession stand?
Well, that's a funny thing. So I have only bought maybe a hot dog at the Eldora concession stand. It might be blasphemous because I know the pizza burger is supposedly the best thing on earth, but my must-have every single week, every year I go, or every single event I go to, one night, there is a independent of Eldora Speedway vendor that sits at the top of turn 1 that does vinegar fries and all kinds of stuff, but I go there for the fried bologna sandwich. At least once, every time. It's my thing.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
My thing.
Well, I mean, like you're saying, King's Royal Saturday night is busy, but as you explained there, the vendors, not only with the driver's stuff, but with the food as well, you can find them outside of turn 1, and then you can go over to turn 4, and it's going to be full over there too.
Yeah.
I enjoy the pizza burger tremendously. I will say last year there was a problem with it. I don't know what the problem was, but this year it's back on point. That being said, you go to the main concession stand and you get the chicken wings.
Yeah.
Don't go to the turn 4 concession and get the Hunt Brothers garbage wings. Don't do that, because they ain't the same. You go to the main grandstand and you get the chicken wings. And while you're there, you might as well get a pizza burger. Good thing is they've got $3 beers as well. Used to be 2.
Yeah, $3 beers. Yeah, it is what it is.
And you got
still in bad.
No, I mean it is what it is. And you have to go to the bar.
Yes, that was where I was getting ready to go. It's like, if you're going to go to the main grandstand and you're going to stand in line for the wings, you might as well go to just a little ways down and get yourself at least one toilet water for the experience.
Yes. And it's delicious.
And I think it might have been you, actually, who a handful of years ago sent me the so-called recipe. Never actually made it at home, but...
All right. Yep. Yeah, my buddy still uses it, and typically some of that stuff's hard to find in certain spots, though. If I had to go with one thing, I'm going with chicken wings. Pizza burger's not far behind. cheese balls are right there. The pepper jack cheese balls. And then you got to get toilet water.
Yeah, you got to. Unless for some
Also,
reason you don't drink, you gotta hit the toilet water. You know, I suppose if you're giving advice to people who are first timers along the lines of beverages, it's worth noting that bringing your own soft-sided cooler in, which I have a backpack cooler, which works out like a charm, holds at least a 12-pack, probably holds about 18. It just gets kind of heavy. But anyway, it's cool because this is one of the things that's always blown me away from the beginning. It's like I bring in a cooler, you fill it full of beer, and then you're nice enough to give me a couple big scoops of ice. And you just like haul around a case of beer while you walk around the racetrack. It blows my mind that this is a normal thing. As a person who also goes to other sporting events, you know, a Reds game or a basketball game, it's like you can't do that anywhere else. It's so damn
no. And just on that note, can you bring a cooler in? Yes. You cannot bring glass in, and you cannot bring alcohol in. And I can tell you from experience, they will check. And then you will have to have somebody run your beer back to camp because they will not let you take it in.
Yeah, I usually bring in a bottle or two of water, depending on how hot it is, and maybe a couple cans of Mountain Dew or whatever. But in general, it's empty until it gets beer in it.
Yeah. And for that matter, you could throw, if you're at camp grilling up hamburgers, you can wrap those sandwiches up and take a bag of chips, throw it in your cooler, and take it in.
I forgot about that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't usually do it, but it's a good point.
So, I mean, you can really make the experience as cheap as you would like. But if you're there, and especially if it's King's Royal, if it's your first time, well, then no, you have to go to the concessions and you have to get the toilet water. But if you're there for the King's Royal and you've been there multiple times, you still have to go to the concessions and get a toilet water at least once. I mean, it's just part of, as you said, the experience.
Definitely.
I mean, those are all good points, and I feel like the first timer is going to bleed into a lot of the other stuff that we want to touch on because it's all relevant.
Yeah.
I guess moving from that, if you're a first timer and you're coming or going or you're staying, now you and I have different opportunities as far as how this goes. It's worked out for me. So you sometimes can't make it there till like Saturday or Friday and things like that. So, and I mean, can you go and hang out and leave? They've made leaving the track, by the way. I was there for the dream. And getting out of the parking lots, 10 times easier. Yep. They started shutting stuff off and only allowing you to go one direction. But they made like 118, because I was parked at Eldora Village.
Okay.
They made 118 all southbound.
Oh, so they kind of have on either side of, what is that, North Star Fort Laramie Road, southbound flow, northbound flow, that kind of thing?
Yep.
That's brilliant.
And you can drive in both lanes.
Yeah.
And then they have it coned off down the road to where you either have to make a left-hand turn or continue straight.
That's fantastic. No, I haven't done a single night type of thing. Well, since I've been coming to Kings Royal, so 7 or 8 years, I've never done the single night thing. But that's good to know because traffic is a mess on Saturday night.
It is, which is part of the reason why we started camping there, because we were camping at St. Mary's, and that's a 35-minute drive.
Oh, you were doing the state park thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was a pain in the butt because, you know, you and everybody else is trying to get back to their cars to leave.
Right.
And so the first time we started camping at the track, I was like, oh, this is a hell of a lot nicer.
Man, it's
I jumped in the camper, took a shower, came back out, sat in my chair and drank a beer and watched everybody trying to get out.
So the other things that we were talking about earlier is before we started recording, you and I were talking about what you do during the day, I guess I would say, you know, and you had mentioned you kind of hang out at the somewhere around the track at your campsite, somebody else's campsite and whatnot. For those that have never been, I kind of go to, we got a group of, it depends on the day, somewhere between 3 of us and 6 of us, and we generally tend to go to a bar somewhere, especially if it's hot. Bar that has air conditioning at the peak of the day until maybe 4 o'clock, something like that. Some of my group likes to golf, and so they will get up and set a early morning tee time on Thursday or Friday and go play golf. To date, I have yet to do that. I might do it this year, and I might not. We'll see.
Well, there's, like you pointed out, as far as bars or restaurants are concerned, I mean, you go, I don't know, it's less than 10 minutes south to Ansonia in the whistle stop, or you go north 5 minutes maybe to the wagon wheel.
Yeah.
And if you continue north past that, another 5 minutes, you're in St. Henry, and you could hit up the St. Henry nightclub.
We did that a couple years ago. That was good.
Close to the track is Burt's, which I hadn't been there.
Burt's, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Gosh, I think 2 years ago was the first time I went in there. Burt's. It's in New Weston. It's like, it's like not even 5 minutes from the track. And
not a shortage of options for that kind of thing.
It's like a general store.
Oh.
Like it's like a grocery / general store, and they've got different types of thing there, and legit like meat that you can pick up, and a bunch of candy my kid loves, and so that's close. That's close by. Muller Brew Barn is like 20 minutes or so to the east-ish.
I think that Muller Brew Barn is a fantastic place. I remember going there. So Robert and I went there one year. It might have even been for Let's Race 2. I'm not 100% sure. But we went there. It was shortly after it opened, so it was 17, 18, somewhere in there. Anyway, this has evolved substantially since that time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got a menu. They've got all kinds of different beer. Back then, it was like you could show up there and get hot pretzels and fried cheese balls and beer. There wasn't any pizza and wings and burgers, and I don't even know what else they got on the menu.
Yeah, well, and they've expanded too. They've got like 2 or 3 other locations.
Yeah, I was at one of them last week in Troy. I went to the one in Troy at random.
Troy
is awesome.
If you got time to kill, Troy's a pretty cool city, and it's, I don't know, hour you think? Hour from Eldora?
Yeah, a little bit
Troy's
less.
Their downtown is really cool.
It is.
You got Old Scratch there, Old Scratch Pizza. You've got Muller Brew Barn there. They've got a couple coffee shops. Agave and Rye is there, which is kind of pricey, but they got really good tacos. And if you go there, you have to get the macaroni and cheese beignets.
I'm checking out Burt's here on the Google really quick.
Oh, all right.
Because I've never heard of it.
Yeah, well, now you know. You gotta check it out.
Yeah.
Also, you could go up to Lake St. Mary. Salina is there, and that's probably 25 minutes.
25 minutes. We went to on the same road. I can't remember what it's called. In Montezuma, it's a town called Montezuma on the south side of the lake. And there's a place called Bem's Landing, which is more of a restaurant. And on the same road, there is a place, and I'm trying to look it up for you because I just can't remember.
No, you're good. You're good.
We went there a couple years ago, last year. One of my buddy's uncles who lives in Wapakoneta, and so that was kind of the halfway point. What the heck is the name of this place? Montezuma. It's next to Bem's, and it's a little dive bar.
Yeah, Montezuma is just on the south side of the lake.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of this damn restaurant.
Well, but not far from Montezuma. You could go west to Coldwater, and they've got Tailspin Brewery there.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Fishmo's is in St. Henry. Niekamp Farm Market, which I'm not sure if it's still theirs or not, off of 127. It's like a Marathon gas station, but if you go in, it used to be like full of a bunch of different crafts and stuff. It's still got things there to check out. The Moose if you remember at the Moose, there's one up there on Lake St. Mary's. Lake Rat Brewing is up there in Salina. And about 45 minutes to Myers Tavern in Botkins or Sour Mugs Tavern in West Milton. Got to shout out Tim there with Sour Mugs. And 45, 50 minutes to the Neil Armstrong Museum in Great Old Wapakoneta.
Yeah, probably 45.
Okay.
Probably 45. I'm going to be there one of these days in the next King's Royal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Quite a bit to do within an hour of the track.
Right. That's what I mean. Kind of where I was going to go next.
And I didn't even mention Greenville.
Greenville's speaking of that place, I haven't been to it, but there's like this tap room in Greenville that I've been trying to bug everybody to go to this year. Sure Shot, yeah. The guy that owns the Whistle Stop is the same guy that owns Sure Shot, Andy, and your buddy and my buddy Todd.
Yeah,
has given that place high praise.
Sure Shot. Now they put a game room in.
Oh gosh,
at Sure Shot.
Like we need more to do, right?
Well, I mean, there's actually. I'm glad you put this out. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast that came out Monday. But the Sure Shot Tap House is doing a bus ride from Eldora to Sure Shot in Greenville and back, $50. I'm not sure of the time frame, but it sounds like you can kind of check out the downtown. You'll have time. They're going to hook people up with some goodies. Then obviously you can go into Sure Shot and drink or play some games and check out the other stores that are in the area. So I know that's something that they're doing and trying to fill up. I believe they did it for the Dream, and I think they're doing it for King's Royal, and I think they're going to do it again for World 100.
Oh, cool.
So that's a way to check it out, and you don't have to drive.
Well, but a lot of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I think
a lot of stuff you can do within an hour. When I get to the track on Tuesday night, if I can just stay there and not leave till Sunday, I'm okay with that.
I'm a little different in that I like our occasional excursion away from the track to go to wherever to grab a lunch or grab beers or whatever. Something about the small town / country side bars that are just little dive bars that I like. And
well, so, I'm not even gonna dime out your stop.
No. I like these places. And then there's a couple other places that are even further out that are good. But anyway, yeah, there's plenty to do, and it's funny to say for a racetrack that's truly in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which for me is one of the appeals, honestly. I say all the time, the newbies that we bring along or who've never been that I try to get to go, I'm like, I said, listen, as long as you aren't bothering somebody, you can't do anything to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want as long as you aren't bothering somebody else, or you're not doing something stupid in front of the sheriff when he comes by on his golf cart.
Yeah, because they're out there and they've got. I think they're out there all night. I can't say they've really paid any attention, but I think they're there pretty much all week.
I guess that's a good thing. It means you, like me, have not drawn their attention.
Well, and I think there used to be a problem in the past with things coming up missing from people's campers and campsites and stuff, and that seems to have curbed that problem. So
that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. And kind of back on that note, there are hotels you could find out. You know, I talked about camping at Lake St. Mary's. You're obviously going to camp at the track this year in some fashion. Once we started camping at the track, I said, this is the only way to do this.
It is.
Because it's just, you're never in a rush.
Nope.
You can hang out, play games, drink beer, grill out. And if you're not paying attention to the clock and you start hearing the cars running, not a big deal because you're already there.
Yeah, not a big deal. I agree with you. Eldora for the King's Royal is the first time I had ever camped at a race, and which is hard to believe given how much racing I watch. But now I'm like, it's the only way to go. Because you don't have almost the only way to go. If you had a way to have like a charter bus to drop you off at the racetrack 2 hours before the race or 3 hours before the race and take you home, maybe that's good. But other than that, at the track is the place to be. So,
and kind of expanding on that, we get there on Tuesday, me and my buddy Steven, and we've made it a habit to. Last year we watched the Brad Duty Classic
Okay.
at the campsite, and then we proceeded to walk the campgrounds, which is fairly large.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think that walk ended till like 3:30 in the morning. Now we came back to camp because when you ran out, you had to go back, right? So we would go back, and at one point, unbeknownst to us, Justin Whittle was walking his dog at like 2 a.m. And then we didn't realize until like, I don't even know if it was the next day or the day after, like watching the big screen, like, hey, that guy in the fire suit, we were standing there talking to him the other night. And we ran into some people that were looking for their campsite, and I'm pretty sure they weren't, they were not heading in the right direction because they were a bit inebriated. The good thing was they offered free beer, so
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times you walk around and all of a sudden you just start having a conversation with folks, whether they're walking or they're hanging out at their campsite, and you just walk up and start shooting the shit with people. That's probably one of the cool things about camping at the track.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. So I think it'd be fun to talk about a couple, I don't know, favorite Eldora stories, if you will. If you could keep them short.
Yeah, well, let me
try. I'm not very good at it, but
let me finish this thought on camping, and then we'll move into that. So,
yeah.
in my opinion, generators and gas tanks are a must because it's usually not comfortable at night.
No.
Porta Clean pumps water, and they empty out your tank. I think it's $50 for each of those services.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, so those are good services. I mean, they got showers there if you don't have that ability. I think they're $7 or $8 maybe up by the track.
Mm-hmm.
I think really 1 through 5, you're going to have pretty solid ground there if you're concerned about maybe your weight and if the weather's kind of iffy. I know there was a year, handful of years ago maybe, where some folks got stuck in Eldora Village because of the rain.
Oh, really? Wow.
And Speedy Camping and Parking is over there, and then you got BFE that's kind of catty corner, which isn't very big, and it looks like that's fairly sturdy ground. Outside of Eldora Village, I think a lot of the camping spots are pretty solid ground, if that's anything that you would be concerned about.
I never thought of that. We camp in lot 4, and I don't know, the guys that I camp with picked out the spot a long time ago because it's a little bit of the higher ground in case you get a gully washer, which, let's be honest, hasn't happened in July at Eldora in a long time. But
yeah. Well, and they got the main lot there, which is pretty intimate, not very big, by the main entrance for Eldora. There's not a ton of sites there. There's also camping inside Turn 1, but that's kind of a pain in the neck. It is the most expensive camping there, and there are time constraints on when you can come and go, if I remember right. So
yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with that personally.
all things to think about. If that's something you obviously aren't going to be able to do this year, but if something you're thinking about, you go this year and you have a blast, which you will. If you're trying to go next year and you're trying to go and camp, you got to get ahead of the game and get on top of that as quick as possible.
I would add one thing to your Turn 1 commentary, which is bonus is that the odds of you camping next to a handful of the racers with big coaches is high. Maybe that makes it worth it, but otherwise,
yeah,
I don't know if they're going to want to talk to you, but
I mean, sure.
But they're there.
So wrapping up the camping part, I guess you wanted to talk about some stories. I mean, I kind of shared one of mine already, so I'll let you go ahead and share one.
I mean, I really just have 2 that I would offer up. One is my first King's Royal. I was at work on a Friday. Robert called me and he said, I got a spare ticket. Somebody bailed on me or they're sick or whatever it was. And he calls me and I'm like, there's no way I can make it there in time to get to the feature. Or I'm sorry, not in time to get there for anything besides the feature by the time I get off work and go home and pack up and drive halfway across the state and all that kind of stuff. So I said, I I said, if you got one for tomorrow, count me in. He's like, well, I do. I'll see you tomorrow. So I did. And at that point in my life, I was training for a half marathon. So I got up in the morning. I ran 5 miles. I literally drank 2 liters of water in the car on the way. I show up at the whistle stop to meet these guys for lunch. And we did shots. Because that's what you should do to start your day before you eat lunch after you ran 5 miles. And the long story short is I went from that to being a rookie who didn't know what he was doing. And I drank some IPAs. And before you knew it, I have no idea what happened during the race. And I know that Donnie Schatz won, and I couldn't tell you what else happened because I was in prime shape. Prime shape.
Well, I'm glad you shared a story at the whistle stop, because when you said that, it made me think back to a few years ago. We were at the whistle stop, and my father-in-law pulls out his harmonica in order to serenade everyone who is around. Unfortunately, my father-in-law does not know how to play the harmonica.
Oh, boy.
So, needless to say, the response was not well received.
Yeah, I'm imagining not. But the moral to the story in my first King's Royal is that from that day forward, anytime I come to Eldora, it is no IPAs, whenever possible, no shots, and strictly domestic light beer, Busch Light, Coors Light, that kind of thing. Because you can live to fight another day. You start getting into that 8% IPA and shots, and you might be real hurting the next day. And I just don't mess with it anymore.
Unless Donnie passes some cars, and then you got to go see Todd after the race to do some shots now.
Yeah.
It's a party.
It was a party, and it was a lesson learned. It's kind of funny. We're watching sprint car racing, but the party is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
So
well, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but before they switched to the 4 days and had the 3 days, they had the track open for the Wednesday night. And they had a band in turn 4. But it was one of the coolest experiences I had there, because they only had a few lights on in the main grandstand area, but you could walk out there and sit in the bleachers.
Mm-hmm.
And they only had like the one light on where the media center is in the infield. For the most part, the rest of the track was dark. There was some ambient light, so you could kind of make things out.
Okay. I don't remember that.
That's something I won't forget, just sitting in the stands. And really, for the most part, it's quiet, because the band was off over by the bar that's in turn 4, which, yes, there's the bar in the main grandstands, and there's a bar in turn 4.
Yeah.
They were set up over by the fan zone.
Okay.
But that was a really cool experience that I had. But there's always stories to be made there.
Yeah.
Friends to be made.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, as long as you're, like, I'm always of the opinion, like, I'll hang out and chat with anybody unless you're being an asshole, and I don't have time for you. But
right. Well, there's not too much of that. There's a little bit.
There's not too much of that. You can really walk around
pretty darn good.
Chit chat with a lot of folks there. It's a good time.
Yeah, and what's really neat is the number of people that come from a very long distance to be there. It really blows my mind.
Yeah.
I could lead into that with the other experience that I had. And this, I almost want to say, because honestly, that's how you and I met, just chatting about racing on social media, is to chat people up if you're going to go to the race, because search the hashtags, search the whatever. We did that, and we met. I don't know if I ever even told you about this, but Robert was on Twitter, I'm going to say maybe Tuesday before the King's Royal, and this is back when it was a 3-day event, I believe. I mean, at least a 2 or 3 day event. And anyway, the guy's name is Matt Duncan, and Matt hails from Knoxville, Iowa. His family is the family that for many moons has been the track prep folks at Knoxville Raceway. And anyway, they were coming to their first Kings Royal as a group, big group of guys from Knoxville, Iowa, and they were like trying to shout out anybody that's interested in kind of like sharing some craft beer. They're going to bring some from Iowa, you bring some from Ohio, and we'll meet and hang out. So we did, and it was just a ball because you got to learn about how they prep the track at Knoxville and what goes into it. But then just to meet guys that are race fans that are from somewhere else that share their experiences and meet new people. So I would encourage everybody to do that.
Oh yeah, because you never know who you're
How I
going to
met
run
those
to.
guys. It's how I met you and Todd. It's
Yep. You never know who you're going to run into, and
good time.
I mean, it's always something, and like you said, it leaves you with a story. So
yeah, good memories, definitely.
Great memories, and I can't wait. And we're less than a week away. It's gonna be a blast. So, wrapping it up.
Yeah,
we're gonna recap 2023. Donnie Schatz led flag to flag. Brent Marks in second, David Gravel in third, Sheldon Haudenschild in fourth, and Kyle Larson would round out the top five. I'm going to let you pick for 2024, but on that premise, a few things. If Donnie wins again, that gives Donnie 7 Kings Royals. Tying who? The King.
Steve Kinser.
Steve
Wow.
Kinser.
I never thought about that. I never thought that I never connected the dots that he was that close. Huh.
Listen, Donnie's the man.
Yeah.
If anybody's got a good shot at winning it, it's Donnie. Now, some guys here lately, Logan Schuchart had 3 wins in a week when he hadn't had a podium all season. That's got to help. That's got to make him feel good.
Yeah.
Rico's good there. Gravel's fast there. Larson is Larson. I'm going to say this because I don't know that I necessarily have a clear pick. Sunshine's been good, by the way. He's been good. I mean, I don't think you can count out Mr. Consistency, Brad Sweet, either.
Yeah.
All of that being said, we recap 2023. We're looking to 2024 in the Kings Royal. I don't know about you. I've been saying this for quite a while, and I think a lot of us are on the same page. I want to see Sheldon or Rico win it, just so we can see the sun come up Sunday morning.
I want to see Sheldon win Kings Royal so bad, just because he's the guy that I root for the most. And you remember this a couple years ago in Jack's farewell season when he led, he got the pole by virtue of winning his heat race. And I don't think I've ever heard that place that loud. It was so cool. And I just think to myself, if Sheldon could manage to pull it off, that place would go bonkers, and it would be so fun.
That is my point there.
So that's what I hope for.
Yeah.
What do I actually think will happen? If I were going to pick, I'd probably pick Gravel because he's really fast this year, or Brad Sweet, or Larson. Probably one of those three if I was going to pick.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't know that, like I said, I don't know that I've got somebody that's clear cut. Like, I think this guy's going to win it. Like I mentioned, Donnie Schatz. Yeah. I mean, he's looked pretty solid this year, and we know when he's at Eldora, and we know when the crown's on the line, the guy shows up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Sheldon winning would just be, that place would go bananas.
It'd be so much fun.
And even Rico wouldn't be on the same level necessarily, but it would be very close.
Yep, I'm with you, man. I think that those two guys would be at a different level in terms of the noise.
And somebody that I didn't mention, that it's not fair, Brent Marks. I mean, you win the historical big one and the Kings Royal in the same week.
It's true.
All of those guys are good there. All of them got a shot. I don't know if I want to pick one, but I think we have to. I think we got to wrap this up by. I think we have to pick someone to win this year's Kings Royal.
If I was pressed to pick one, I would probably pick the two, just because of the speed.
All right. David Gravel's fast at Eldora. There's no denying it.
They don't always seem to do real well when it comes to the format, but they got the speed. So
he's got the speed there. That's why he holds the fastest lap there.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think it's a bad pick. I just don't know why. I just feel like that. I don't want to pick one. I want to see Sheldon.
Same. I do.
I think Donnie wins 7.
You never know. I'm not going to argue with you. That would also be, because of the history, would be a pretty epic moment.
If you haven't been to the Kings Royal, you got to get to the Kings Royal. If you're a sprint car fan, a dirt racing fan, you can't miss it. Leaving on this note, we ran them out of Busch Light Friday and Saturday night last year. We got to run them out of Busch Light again.
Sounds like good.
Ryan, thanks for coming on. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
I'll
do it again.
Hopefully, we'll see everybody that's checking this out in a week. Ryan, I know I'll see you.
Yeah.
At Eldora Speedway for the Kings Royal.